Alpha episode. We have an episode 147, and we have another very special guest that I'm very excited that we connected again through the power of social media. And today's guest, his name is Rodney Robinson II. Rodney is a full-time business professional who is growing a Florida-based real estate investment portfolio. He manages his personal rentals while growing his multifamily investment business, Robinson Capital, and seeks to help others learn to invest in real estate and multifamily opportunities. So Rodney's real estate experience began in college while working as a leasing agent at the student housing community. After college, he began his career in corporate America, earning positions of increasingly responsible and managing teams with supply chains and operations. Throughout this time of professional growth, he was simultaneously growing with his investment skills and knowledge of real estate. And again, another couple of things to mention: in 2019, after years of studying and patiently waiting to be in a position to buy his first rental, Rodney acquired a single-family home, rehabbed it into 2 months, and rented it out before the end of the summer. And of course, it continues. So basically, 2020 launched the Robinson Capital, which of course you can find. There's a link for that in the show notes, and the website's called RodneyRobinson2nd.com. So he launched that in 2020, and now he's seeking to help working class professionals to invest passively in this great asset class, which multifamily is. So Rodney, just want to say big thank you for joining me today on this episode.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here, and that bio sounds great. It's been a good journey. I look forward to sharing some of that experience.
Definitely. Yeah. So because we spoke before and you texted me about, what the questions is going to be like. So yeah. So like just keeping the conversation, is, as much easy as possible, and just letting people know that, look, even the tough times like these, you still can invest. And of course, it will explain us what ways people can invest in this multifamily, asset class and for what reasons. But personally, maybe if we kind of go back to the point of you starting a real estate business, can you tell your personal background and story a little bit?
Right. Yeah, that's great. I love to tell the story. So I've been working since 2012. After college, I graduated. I got a full-time job. I did what most people do. Around that time, I wanted to grow in my career. I truly believed I'd be an executive at one of the aerospace companies. I was in Orlando at the University of Central Florida, one of the most populated schools at the time, and it's probably up there. Maybe it's 1 or 2 by now, with 60,000 students. And I loved Orlando. I believed that my role and my goal in life was just to continue to pursue a career, work at the same company for 30 years. Shortly after I graduated, the internship that I was at didn't have any full-time opportunities. I moved to Melbourne, Florida, where my wife and I shortly got married after graduation, and I started my career there. It was while in Melbourne around 2013 that I came across the ultimate guide to real estate investing from BiggerPockets. And at that point, I remember walking into the kitchen. I told my wife while we were on vacation, I was like, I'm going to invest in real estate. So it did take me about 6 years to really make moves, but I spent those 6 years learning. And, looking back, I could have done a lot more in that time, but we wanted to get our finances in order. We wanted to pay off student loan debt, do certain things, which I think it is important, especially right now. A lot of people are looking at their personal finances and their basic needs. So I would advise people before they take risks to cover those basic requirements. In 2016, after having been lived in different places and worked at different companies, we had moved back to Melbourne, Florida. We had gone to a few cities and had a few children. In 2016, we bought our first house. It was a primary residence. And we knew it would be a rental, and we knew that we were paying a good price for a house in Melbourne, Florida, but it became our place, where we lived for the next 4 years. We intended on that being the first rental, but in 2019, I wanted to just really take a step in actually buying a house for the purposes of renting it out. And we bought our first single family rental, like the bio that you read says. It was a journey getting it fixed up. I got some help. I learned a lot in the process. I learned a lot about leasing. I learned a lot about marketing. I showed the house to a few people I probably shouldn't have shown it to. It was an interesting showing. They weren't qualified. But I learned in the process. And then the long story made short, we rented it out. And then what I call the law of the first deal, I would call that really the first deal. We bought another house for our primary residence. And then the house that we were living in became our second rental. At that point, I felt like a real estate mogul. Just kidding. I knew that this was a thing, and I knew that we were going to now call this our business. So I actively began looking for more real estate. And it was around July of this year that I decided that it's time to just focus on multifamily, because I can continue buying single families, or I can buy small multifamilies, or I can just focus on where I really wanted to go from the very beginning, which is scaling into a business and having control of many units and providing housing to many residents and helping others build wealth in the process. So that's pretty much where I am.
Got it. So you kind of witness the power of compounding again through,
Oh
as you
yeah,
mentioned in bio, through acquiring these single family homes. And so that's very interesting. Again, the transition. Can we talk about the transition a little bit? Again, coming from single family to multifamily space, which of course it's like there's a few probably mind shifts that took for you to kind of understand the way the business operates and the way, because it is a business. Like single
yep,
family investments, there's still a business, but multifamily, we go now from single family to commercial properties. So
that's
can you
right.
talk about that personal transition? I mean, can you talk about maybe the educational part, which of course I think that advice would be good for the people who want to learn and invest into multifamily, themselves,
That's great.
some of those people.
I can certainly do that. I actually have been writing a lot about this on my blog, because this is where I am right now. I'm in the transition. I've learned a lot about multifamily, and I've learned a lot from those few years of studying in single families and the time that I spent in single families. I'd say I spent relatively less time in single families than most investors, because I knew that it was time to make a shift sooner. Although it did take me longer to start investing initially. Really, the mindset shift happens when you start thinking of real estate less of an individual sport and more of a team sport. And I'm working on that right now. So individually, I wanted to use my own resources. I wanted to find my own deals. I wanted to manage everything on my own. And it makes sense to do that when you have two single family homes, which is what I have right now. But when you're talking about acquiring real estate, multifamily real estate, it requires that you're working with a team, unless you have infinite resources, because even if you had millions of dollars in your bank account, you're going to run out quickly if you're trying to grow a business in real estate. So that's the biggest thing, which means you have to learn to trust people. You have to get out there and talk to people, and you have to understand how business deals work. So as an individual investor with single family homes, you can afford to make a few mistakes. If your budget wasn't exactly, to the right amount, or if you you have a few errors along the way in your analysis,
Yeah.
it's not so bad. I think it could work out okay. But when you're talking about buying multifamily and with other people's money and resources, in my case, I'm working and reaching out to people just like me, what I call working professionals that are seeking to grow wealth through real estate. When you're working with people that are counting on financial success, it's more than just you and your own resources, which means that the stakes are higher. Doesn't necessarily mean the risk is higher. It just means it's more important that we understand the deal and the underwriting and the market and things like that. Another point, the final point, when it comes to a mindset shift, this isn't my case, but many people can actually become accidental investors, accidental landlords in the single family space, maybe even in the multifamily space. Maybe they bought a house for some reason, they needed to move, or there was a financial change or some other situation caused them to leave, and now they're a landlord. It doesn't so much happen in the multifamily space, at least that I know of, that you become an accidental like apartment investor. The reason I say that is because in the other situation, you can afford to make mistakes and you can be okay owning real estate to a degree.
Yeah.
But you really have to understand and learn what I believe are fundamentals when it comes to investing in multifamilies and larger multifamilies apartments. So
Yeah. So the fundamentals, yeah. So having fundamentals in place, which is, I talk about that a lot. So everything that's like, there's so many different businesses, like single family, commercial real estate, startup companies,
right.
industrial, like any business that you can think of, there are some specific kind of pieces and the basics, as you're saying, the platform that you're going to build the business on, and those are
Right.
across the different board, those are the same. The success
Yep.
principles are pretty much the same when it
It's
comes
very
to the
true.
when it comes to the
Very true.
mindset. And part
I
of that,
agree.
as you're saying, is the team, having the
Yep.
right players in place. And so can you talk about that a little bit briefly? How would you build that team, and what type of people are you looking for? Of course, it's the bank, it's the brokers, it's the potential partners that are going to be investing with you as a GP.
Yep.
So how do you find these people? How do you look for them? And how do you know if they're going to be the right fit for your business?
Well, I'm actually in this process right now. So what I'll do is I'll explain what I've done with single families, and then I'll
Mhm.
explain how it's working for me as I transition to building a business that involves other people, helping support our mission. In the single family space, I don't have a property manager, but I did have a team from the very beginning. I have a friend named Daniel, and he's also an investor in our area. He loves doing work. I don't like doing work. And there's really no wrong answer, except that's not my fit. It's his fit. He's passionate when he's talking about the repairs and the renovations that he's working on. And for me, while my resources in terms of dollars are important, my time is more important. So he loves to work on the properties that I have. So if I have a need, he's become kind of like the guy that I call. And he's actually even outsourced that. There was an AC work that had to be done. He looked at it, he got the guy, and we have a good synergy going there. And that works just well for me. So as I transition into multifamilies and apartments, the partners that I need to have are people just like me that are looking for deals and trying to present deals to investors. And then I'm looking for investors, people that I can pull into my network, people that I've known through the other business connections I've had from my W-2 job, and friends and family. And so that comes from the partnership standpoint. The other big piece is developing relationships with brokers, getting to know brokers, allowing them to understand what your mission is, what you're looking for. That's what I'm working on now, and in my area and some of the other markets I'm looking for. I'm probably in the early stages of that. And then having an idea of who your financial partners are. So I know one or two people now, which are very key to making it happen. So I have an idea of what it takes to close, what the criteria will be before closing. So, and then you have I probably want to make sure we cover this too. If you're a working professional watching this, you have what I've heard someone else call an internal partner. And that would be my wife, that would be my support system. Those are the people that are rooting for you. They may not be passionate about real estate, but they support the mission. And that's very important to have, so that because this can be an exhausting game if you're not careful. And having that support and one or two people that can encourage you is key.
Yeah. So having support system at home too, because
Yep.
I spoke with multiple people, business owners, active business owners myself, and different industries across the different industries, and everybody telling me the same thing. They say, look, if the relationship in the family doesn't work, there's some problems that have to be resolved. You have to resolve that first, because
Right.
you're not going to be able to operate business at the highest efficiency if you have some internal problems going. So yeah,
Exactly.
having the right
And
people. Yeah,
if I could add to that,
sure.
just a little bit more detail about me. So we have 4 children, and they're all under the age of 6. We had twins in December of 2018. I believe what caused me to buy that first rental, or the second rental, but really the first rental in 2019, was having the twins. So when people found out that we had bought a rental property and we just had twins maybe 6 months earlier, they're saying, why'd you do that? Didn't you just have twins? I said, you don't understand. It's because we had twins that that I decided that it's time. So the family motivates me, but I also learned, this is the part that kind of brought me back to the team. portion, I learned that there are some things that just don't fit with my lifestyle, and I have to build my investing strategies and now this business around the lifestyle that is required of me. So I want to be present as a father, present as a husband. So multifamily is really what got me there, because I knew that I can build a syndication business where I'm not working, in this business the way I am with only 2 single family homes, and we're scaling and we're helping others that are just like us, that they may be young families, they may be working professionals, do exactly what we're doing, and they get to do what they love every day because they're investing passively in real estate. I'm also helping others learn to invest and take that first step just like I did. But I'm teaching them about what they can do to avoid some of the headaches that I experience occasionally. So
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Definitely. And for the passive investors, there's still a lot that education will be available for those people at the same time too, while they're investing
Right.
passively, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
can we talk about the potential future deals, or maybe first of all the markets that you're going to be looking deals for? Are we talking about the Florida market, or are you going to be looking somewhere else as well at the same time?
Yep. So right now I'm focusing on Florida, where I am. I live in Brevard County. I recently wrote a post about why I like Brevard County. Um, uh, Specifically, so Brevard County includes cities like Melbourne and Palm Bay, Titusville, um, and the Cape Canaveral. I like Brevard County because I lived here since 2012. Like I said, I moved, but I came back in 2016. I'm seeing a lot of growth. I'm seeing companies move to the area. I'm seeing a lot of aerospace interest. A lot of young engineers are moving and bringing their families. And there have been mergers in the area. There have been new startups in the area. And then you start to see little hints of growth, especially in the younger demographic, when you start to see some of the hip, new, trendy restaurants and coffee shops opening up in the area. There's a hotel in the downtown area of Melbourne, which I always thought would be a nice place to put a hotel. You're seeing those things finally happen. I do think COVID's going to have some sort of impact over the next few years, but altogether, I think, Florida being one of those places where people are moving in large numbers. If you look at charts, you'll see Florida is one of them. I heard someone say that people move to where the sun shines, and it kind of appears to be true. Florida is one of those places, and then on top of that, people are pushing out from those populated cities. It's driven mainly by COVID, but you're also seeing, just the natural trend of people moving out of the big cities. So the reason I mention that is because Orlando is a big city. And Melbourne is about an hour southeast of Orlando, maybe an hour and 15. And I've seen and heard of people that may, for example, go to school at the University of Central Florida, and they're living in Titusville because they don't want to be stuck with all that traffic, but they're living in the apartments in Titusville. I've seen people that have been on vacation in Orlando, but they stayed in Melbourne, and I thought that was interesting. I've seen people that were visiting from Canada that are living that came to stay in Melbourne to visit. So it's starting to seem like, every spring break, it seems like more people are here. It just seems like it's one of those areas where people are starting to take advantage of in terms of living. So I'm keeping an eye on Melbourne. And I also am interested in other areas such as Jacksonville, Florida, where my family's from.
Here we go. So again, yeah, Florida is definitely is a great market now, and I think it will be even stronger going in the future. Again, I'm just looking at the blog that you posted, and of course, that's available on the website, RodneyRobinsonSecond.com. So the main employer, I see L3 Harris Technologies, former Harris Communications. So there's 7,000 employees going to be there. And again, what's happening with the Irion, I don't know if I'm saying the name right, where they're building the supersonic jet. And
right.
Being myself a little bit involved with the projects with space exploration, there's a tremendous amount of attention is happening to that industry right now. So it's going to continue
Awesome.
to boom. And again, Florida is kind of being one of those key places, key
Right.
stations, for those things, So definitely I see a strong growth in Florida personally myself. So yeah, it's a great market.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, thank you. I see it too. I think, it's important to be patient. So we were talking about fundamentals.
Yeah.
I I'm just like you. I think investing is investing. I think fundamentals are key to whichever investment strategy you follow, which is why my role model is someone who doesn't really, he's not a real estate guy, Warren Buffett, and his strategies are very disciplined, and he's a very patient investor. And I'm not going to say I've mastered patience, but sometimes I just have to be patient. When you're doing something like this, it takes time before you can find a good deal. I have people that are now following me and they're like, let me know when you find a deal. Have you found a deal? I'm like, not yet. But that's what it takes, especially when we know where we are with COVID and the impacts. I just believe that better deals come in the future. It doesn't mean that you stay on the sidelines. This is a time where you learn, just like I'm learning, and so that you're prepared when those opportunities do come.
Mhm.
And I think those will be there.
Got it. So talking about the deal criteria, can you, take us, like to what you're going to be looking for specifically, maybe the unit count, the price per door or per square foot or whatever you're counting on, and like what areas specifically, because again, you kind of covered it, what areas you're going to be looking those
Hmm.
deals for, but maybe the unit count and what type of price you're going to be looking for.
Yeah. To start, it's very simple for me. I'm looking for like a class C or a B minus property and maybe a B area, which means basically, class is, you, an indication of the whether you call it the newness or the quality or the attraction to the tenant. But when I say class B neighborhood, that means those certain areas of, let's say, Melbourne or in other cities, Jacksonville, where maybe it's an older property, but there's a lot of interest in, a higher class tenant in that area. So that's pretty much what I'm looking for. And I'd say between 30 and 40, 5 units. And just as like a rule of thumb, and I'm not seeing this much right now, less than 50K per unit. Um,
Mhm.
so it's going to take some patience, and it's going to take, continuing to watch for those opportunities. But I'd say
Mhm.
that's a very general criteria for now.
Got it. Okay, so can we talk about the finding deals itself? Because, like, again, I love the way that you're looking for kind of these little bit smaller deals instead of
Hmm.
hunting the deals down that everybody is after, 100
Right.
plus 200 unit deals. Because I
Yep.
spoke with a lot of syndicators, and that's where the focus goes right now, to scaling back to the smaller amount of units, because those are, the areas where a lot of people not looking at. So you can
Right.
find those type of deals more often. But how do you come across those deals? I mean, you mentioned building relationship with brokers at the same
Hmm.
time. But is there some creative strategies that you use to go about and to find these type of deals?
I think I'm doing something different now. I do have, originally I was looking for them myself, and I've gotten advice from more experienced people, and they told me, hey, it's exhausting. And, given your life, you have a lot that you're doing. And even without that, it's a lot of work to do it all yourself. And that's where the team player mindset comes. So I do know a broker in the area, and I have access to, information and opportunities that may come. I'm not seeing a lot, but what I'm doing is different, and it's different for me. It's not different for people who may be experienced who are listening to this, or people who have done this for a while. I'm developing relationships with people in Florida that are looking for deals and that find deals. So that I can be of value in other ways as well. So I can see them myself, and maybe I'll find a few myself, but I'm looking, just to network. I'm putting out the content, um, and helping others be a part of this while I'm just generally networking with other investors in the area. And that's pretty much my approach right now.
Got it. Got it. That's a good approach. Definitely
Yeah.
networking and getting in contact with people, providing, exchanging value, brainstorming, that always works.
Yep.
Even
It
like
it does.
having Zoom conversations now instead of
It's
coffee
great.
coffee shop meetups. But can
It's
you
great.
talk can you talk about, let's say, okay, you got the deal, 50 plus units, let's say you close on it. So when it comes to day-to-day operations, who's going to be in charge of the managing the properties? Is it going to be yourself, or you're going to hire a third-party management?
Yeah, it'll be a third party manager. And what I think the unique value that I have, it's if anyone's listening, you may have a skill that you have that may not be a passion.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes it's good to use those skills even though they're not passions until you are able to get yourself out of it. But I'm going to do what it takes. So
Hmm.
what I'm getting ready to say is I was a leasing agent while in college. That I think you may have read it in the bio. I don't remember. I was a leasing agent, and I had no idea that was going to be a great experience in terms of a future career path for me. But while in college, I responded to like some complaint that my roommate got, but everybody got the complaint in the apartment. So I went to the manager's office, the property manager's office, and explained, hey, it's not me, it's my roommate. And I said, by the way, I submitted my resume, and I ended up getting a job as a leasing agent on the spot in 2012. I did that job for about 3 years. I learned a lot about leasing, working with students, working with parents, but most importantly, just working with residents all together, administering leases, enforcing leases, answering calls, which most of which are complaints. So in general, I think I have some sort of experience managing properties. What I'm saying is I'm not going to manage those properties myself, but I have an idea of how well and maybe what some best practices are for managing properties. The student housing property that I was with probably had, hundreds of students. So I think it won't be a huge undertaking as long as I stick to my criteria and our investors' criteria, if we're aligned, which would be basically operational value add and then light physical, value add. So what I mean by that is maybe rents are under market. There are simple things that we could do to perform better without, having to take on this major distressed project. And I think that's important, especially for beginners and beginning passive investors, so that there's cash flow on day one and you're not finding yourself in a situation where it's a large undertaking and you did not project the pain that you're going to experience and are not prepared for that financially. Anyway, so I share all that to say I'd find a good property manager and make sure that we're following best practices. They have a track record. And I think managing the manager asset management would be one of the skills that I could have if necessary, unless the partner that I worked with had better skills.
Okay, I got it. So one of the questions that I had is kind of what's going to be your approach when you're going to be vetting your potential property manager, but you kind of answered that question. So
Yep.
Talking about value add strategies, can you talk about maybe some kind of creative value add strategies that you see in other syndicators are working on? Like what are you planning to implement? Are you going to be looking for kind of heavy facelift for the property? It's going to be minor kind of value add strategy?
I'll tell you, it would probably be, I love the idea of low-hanging fruit, and it exists. I'll tell you what I've seen other people do in terms of just regular value add. A lot of times it's painting the exterior, painting the doors, things like that. Mm-hmm. And then, every 3 to 5 years, it's a new person doing the same thing. And that's cool. If it works, it works. So of course that's part of it. But what I believe that I have noticed, especially in the smaller multifamilies, let's say between 30 and 50, they could be mom and pop operated, which means maybe they're self-managed and these people are taking care of it to the best of their abilities, using their own resources. That goes back to the individual versus the team approach. When they do that, they may miss out on opportunities. They may be, if you see that a property is 100% occupied, that could be an indication that the rent is not to the market levels, because it's 100% occupied. People easily rent out the place or easily, sign a lease. And those are opportunities to maybe increase the rent by 15% in the short term. And I think, and in doing that, if you look at the math, over 30 unit, increasing the rent by that amount, it could add substantial value in a short amount of time. And I think that's a great opportunity. Other things are, it would be light value add, in my opinion. I'd look for something that's stabilized, which means, it's got maybe 85+% occupancy. So it's not, like I said earlier, a distressed asset, but it's something that's easy to take on. It's something that cash flows on day one and can provide, can cover that debt service. But I do believe that finding places that may not be, that basically are undermanaged. So raising the rent levels to the market levels, changing the services, maybe the landscaper is, too high for what they provide. maybe you realize, you're paying too much for utilities and you negotiate better with that, or you can pass on those utilities. All of that is operational value add, which I'm very interested in. I think it's the easiest lowest risk manner of adding value, especially to get started.
Yeah, but sometimes, yes, exactly. So kind of looking for those mom and pop properties that, some of those could be in quite still good condition, but some of those might require some
That's true.
heavy or light value add, because look, some of those properties, they have not been maintained except
Right.
just painting the doors, which is like, it gets thicker by every year,
Right.
So
That's
like,
true.
yeah, so that could be done, but it's still, look, like with the hand that you're dealt right now, when it comes to finding, it's a little bit more difficult to find the deals.
Yep.
Still find a good deal that makes sense financially, if you can do some
Exactly.
a little bit value add, it's not going to
Yep.
hurt if it makes sense, from a number
Stepping
standpoint.
stones.
Yeah.
Right. And then from a number standpoint, like you were saying, being conservative and estimating what the future value is going to be. So I think it's when you start with, rent that is this much under the market, you have confidence that you could increase it at least to lower than the market and still add value, versus saying it's going to be 5% year over year and this is how we're going to, this is how much we're going to sell it at.
Because I think, everybody who's getting in a first deal, they should keep, a CapEx number in mind all the time. And maybe the
So
CapEx
important.
that they have set aside, maybe they will be more required, because who knows what type of problems will come up in the future. I'm sure,
Exactly.
you'll have people come in and do a thorough due diligence on a property and make sure that everything is in place, as the owners will say, because sometimes these people lie to you as well. It's a brass wiring, I guarantee, it's there, and it's like aluminum or something, So who knows? Like, people do lie because they want to get rid of the property. So these things happen. So keeping CapEx available, could be.
Just be ready.
Yeah.
Prepare for that.
Yeah. So talking about the deal, so let's say, coming back to the scenario, you found the first deal, but who knows, like, how long it's gonna take? Hopefully fast. But what's going to be the second deal? Are you still going to be looking for multifamily, a building portfolio of that, or are you going to be looking towards kind of diversification and different, maybe commercial asset classes?
I feel that for the next 5 to 10 years, I'll focus specifically on multifamily, and that's apartments. I might venture into other things, but I believe it's important to focus. Like I said, I told you that Warren Buffett is someone that I admire. He is the type where, people laughed at him for a long time during the tech boom, and he did miss out if you look at some of those opportunities, but that wasn't his area of expertise. And I struggle because a lot of people that I follow have flipped houses, they've wholesaled, they've done offices, they've done retail, they've done self-storage, they've done multifamilies. But what I noticed, and I didn't realize this, is they still had focus because they stuck with something for 5 years. It was a season of focusing specifically on that. So when you look at their overall resume, it's like, wow, they've done all these different things, but they were in multiple seasons of focus. So anyway, to answer your question, for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to focus specifically on apartment syndication. One, because I like it a lot, and I could see myself doing it much longer than that. I think it's one of the best asset classes, and I love real estate, and I love the idea of providing great housing to residents and helping people just like me that are working professionals generate wealth through real estate. So I kind of don't see it changing in the long term.
And it could be it's not going to take you 5 or 10 years to kind of understand the game, because you already understand the way you need to operate and maintain the properties, increase the value, and provide the great returns for your passive investors. But what you're saying is so true. Getting focused, which I think at the same time he was focused, and I think in the beginning stages, Warren Buffett, he accumulated a certain amount of money. Let's say it was like $8 million, where of course it was like 30 years, 50 probably years ago. So, and that dropped in the market, and at that moment it dropped to 3 million. So what other people would be doing at that time? They will be pulling money out, and that's it. Like, it's over. But he kept focused, and that compounding thing is just worked out for him, definitely.
He did.
Yeah.
I love that. That's what I admire. I think I remember listening to certain podcasts in let's say 2014, and you'd hear the investors talking about, or you hear stories. Let's say you read an article about the opportunities they took in '09 during the last recession. And I was jealous because I said, wow, who knows when those types of opportunities come back around. Now, it's unfortunate that people are suffering through times like that and what could come in the future. However, people like us can help by taking on opportunities to invest and help communities grow and things like that.
Yeah.
And being able to have that objective mindset where, okay, this is bad, that's bad. All right, what opportunities are here? What I know is that, people are always going to need a place to live. And in spite of technological advances, there is not yet technology that replaces basic needs, such as food, just how it's delivered, right? Or housing, maybe how you go about finding properties and stuff like that. But people still have to live somewhere. And that's why I love this. And that's why I think if we're careful and we're patient and we practice that same mindset of discipline, sticking to your criteria, those opportunities will come and then we'll be ready.
Yeah, exactly. It's just being ready, being aware of what's happening. And, that's again, that's the mindset part, because the 80% is the mindset and 20 is just the mechanics, taking action on the things that you know. So let's say, let's imagine the scenario, because again, you're going to be, now you bring an attention again by being on this podcast about, that, look, you will provide an opportunity for passive investors to invest in multifamily, which you of course explained a little bit, the benefits of investing in multifamily. And of course, there's all these free resources that you have on the website when it comes to the blogs, and people can go to the rodneyrobinson2nd.com to read. There's all these great blog posts available for more information. But let's say when you come across these people, how the conversation go about? I mean, because I'm sure I'm not asking you some probably important questions that these people ask. So can you mention just a few things that people ask you about investing passively, and like how do you teach them about, that the way of investing passively with you?
Yeah, I think it's very simple, especially if they're just like me. I know what it's like to need a paycheck. I knew what it was like to have very little in your bank account. So number one is to find out where they are financially and understand that, we have this mindset culturally of not sharing certain things, but sometimes you need accountability so you could get some help. But most of the time, if people are contacting me, it's because they want to learn to invest in real estate. Many people think of real estate investing as simply buying a single family home. And I am able to listen to them as they hear my story and say, hey, I want to do that too. Talk to them about what I've learned and what I've done. And then I am able to transition to what I'm doing right now, which is building a syndication business that gives other people the opportunity to invest and grow wealth and be able to do what they love or are skilled at every day. That's engineers, that's doctors, that's lawyers, that's business professionals. And when they find out about that, they're very interested. And basically I explain to them how it works, but it's not just a one phone call and you get it. What I do is I'm able to invite them into my network, share with them the blog posts, my resources, like you said, and this newsletter that I'm just starting. That will allow people every month to know what I'm working on. I'm going to update you on why I wrote this blog post, some takeaways that I didn't share in the blog post, the cool opportunities like I have to be able to be on your podcast and some of the things that I was able to reflect upon afterwards, and then what I'm seeing in the market. And what it is it's a journey that we're all going on, and it's a patient one. I'm going to be patient. The people that I'm working with, they have to be patient, otherwise they'll walk away, and that's okay. That means it's not the right fit. But we're gonna be patient for the right opportunities and make sure that there's alignment of interests. So when I speak with passive investors, it's number one to understand where they are, understand their objectives, make sure that we could potentially be good fits for each other, and then I invite them into our network. In any case, I invite them to our network, and then I do that last part over time as we build relationships. So that's something I'm working on now.
Here you go. Here you go. So again, for more details, you should get in contact with Rodney and, ask him all the questions when it comes to passive multifamily investing. And of course, all these different benefits and tax advantages and write-offs and all these different things that are associated with that. But the last question that I wanted to ask you again, now you're like, you're coming out with this message, teaching people about the benefits of that, and you're networking with people, all doing all these amazing things. And part of that is, of course, your family. That is your why. That's what you're doing the business for. But again, associated with that, is there a legacy piece that you want to leave behind you as well?
Certainly. I'm really thankful for what my parents have done. I think with each generation, we just get better. And when I say we, that's anybody. If everyone's doing the right things, hopefully you hope your children do a little bit more or better than you did. And it's not to take away from your success. But I got to this place now being a parent where I'm kind of okay with the fact that maybe some of my dreams may not get to exactly where I wanted, but they can build on that. Some of the greatest people in history built on their parents' dreams or built on their parents' successes. I believe Warren Buffett was one of them. His dad was a stock trader and also a politician. So anyway, there's a legacy piece, and I think it's very, very special that my children get to see and hear us talking about growing wealth and talking about things that you don't always get to hear in school, or may not ever get to hear in school. And it's not to take away from the importance of our education or going the traditional route, getting a job. This is for everyone. Anybody who has a professional in any other field can have some exposure to real estate as a wealth building tool. And I'm so excited that our kids, as young as they are getting exposure to that type of information.
Here you go. And that's beautiful legacy. I mean, impacting for, people at the same time, and, providing them kind of, you said, the base of the knowledge and your personal experience, and, nurturing them, from there. And, of course, they will, follow through with their own personal ventures. Maybe it's not going to be business, but at least look, they will have the right mindset, and it could be a different business, or they're going to be professionals in different industries. But the fact that the mindset piece is going to be there, which is the most important thing in the business.
You're exactly right.
And just in life in general.
So right.
Yeah. So that is a great legacy, because those people, those your 4 kids, they will impact many more thousands of people.
You're right. This will be part of their story that they build on, and they use it for inspiration in other places.
Exactly. It's just a ripple effect that's happening. So that is awesome. That is awesome. So I really appreciate Rodney and coming on today and sharing your personal journey, experience, tips, strategies, and the mindset, why you look at the multifamily and for what reasons. And of course, for more details, RodneyRobinsonSecond.com, Instagram, LinkedIn, if you want to get in contact with Rodney on a personal level. And before we're going to go, one thing that I want to ask you guys and girls, if you share this episode with a friend of yours, best case scenario with a person who is looking to invest into multifamily deals passively, been talking about it for a little bit, but can't find the right operators. Here you go. We have Rodney for today, so make sure to pass this episode along. Rodney, again, thank you for being on this episode. I really enjoyed it, so thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a treat and a great opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again. So guys and girls, make sure to share this episode. And as always, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.